Oh no, boys and girls. Weather report for September 13th, 2021. And I forgot buffaloes and bunnies. You guys too are important to us. Hello.
Oh, speaking of buffalo, I meant to mention this yesterday, but you bring that up at the beginning. You say buffaloes and bunnies. I had a hawk swoop down almost right in the front of my house and grab a bunny the other day.
Oh wow!
Squawking, yeah.
If you ever see a pterodactyl swoop down and get a buffalo, then I'll be excited.
Yeah, then
that would be amazing. I would love to be there for that. That would be awesome.
Yeah, yeah, I would too. But yeah, my little granddaughter, thank God she didn't see it, because she's like, "Where? What happened? I want to see it."
Oh no!
Yeah, so she didn't.
Yeah, we had my sons when they were little toddlers out, and they were looking at a bunny, watching it, and we were sitting on a picnic blanket with a cat, and the fucking cat went and grabbed the bunny right in front of them. And and we didn't even know a cat could do that.
And the sad part about it is me and my little granddaughter, when we're playing outside, we go. I play with her, and we go bunny hunting. And we walk around the yard, and they'll be on different places in the yard. And of course, when you see them, how they are. They'll sit there, frozen for a little bit, and then they run, and she tries to catch them. And so that's a fun little thing that we do. Of course, she loves the bunnies, and so she saw that thing get grabbed by a hawk. She probably would have been devastated, I'm sure. So
it reminds me, I was watching a video earlier this morning. You remember Fabio, that model with the big long blonde hair?
Oh yeah.
It showed a picture of him, or a video of him at the Busch Gardens on that roller coaster back in the late 90s, and a goose ran into his face while he was
wow.
He had blood all over his nose and everything.
Wow. Huh.
Yeah, a couple of the girls they had, sitting surrounding him, also got like goose blood all over them. That was pretty nasty.
Yeah. Well.
Okay, so anyway, there's this fuzz Rana thing with SFT that I looked at earlier. First of all, I wanted to mention Orge had a video taken down by the YouTube bots.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah. And so I linked that in the description, and it's also in the chat here. And people should. Orge does some really very short, very amusing videos.
They are. He knows how to be both succinct and humorous.
Yeah. Unlike us.
I just go on and on. I hope every once in a while somebody giggles.
Yeah. Anyway,
I know I've heard of this Faz Rana. Do you know what his PhD is in? Do you remember? I can't remember.
He's a biochemist.
A biochemist, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, and then he quit in 1999, I think, and started working for the creationist groups or whatever.
Yeah.
He talks about it in. He's got a webpage.
Yeah.
I've got it linked here some goddamn place. Here we go. Fuzz Rana. Anyway, so there was this video, but then I got into a little discussion with Doki Doki Bible Club.
Yeah.
So I posted, yes, indeed, the term junk DNA is as problematic as calling it functional. Now, I don't know if you know what I mean by that, but I'm willing to talk about it and explain it. But if you use the Bible as your first source for biology, you may not understand the nuance here. Hence, I welcome you to come over to my channel and discuss it. And so Doki replied, why should I trust your opinion on the Bible when you said you stopped reading after chapter 2 in the first book? And I was confused by that because I said, not sure if I was clear. You shouldn't trust me on the Bible. It's just that the Bible has nothing to do with an opinion on science. Zero, not a zip. This is hard to express, but evolution is not done from a worldview perspective because it deals only with very small steps. We study the steps, not the overall implications. All science does that. So I'm trying to explain methodological naturalism to Doki Doki.
Yeah.
And Doki Doki comes back and says, thank you for your reply. Smiley face. I will consider. Oh, Colbert said you can't trust smiley face anymore. It may not mean smiley face. To the younger generation, the 20-somethings.
Yeah.
It may mean something entirely different.
Yeah.
Anyway, I will consider what you have said for the first 2 chapters of Genesis, but since you haven't read further, I am cautious to consider your review of the chapters and the whole book you haven't read yet. Now, I told him that the book doesn't matter, right? At this point.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. So then I said, Doki Doki SFT fan club. I'm trying to say that the Bible has nothing to do with evolution. I do not need to read it. And he says, okay, thank you. I'll consider this for the first 2 chapters of Genesis of what you've read. But should I read the rest myself or take your word upon faith in something you haven't read? Once again, Doki Doki, I'm trying to fucking explain to you that the Bible has nothing to do with it. And so I answered back, why is this so hard to communicate? The Bible has no place in any scientific investigation. If the Bible is biasing what you think about evolution, then it's not evolution. And Doki Doki says, I'm still hesitant to trust book review from somebody not read the book. Maybe I'll ask an atheist who has read it. Now, wait a minute, Doki. What I'm trying to communicate to you is that the Bible doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And then I said, wow, tell me what the book has to do with molecular biology. Then I'll put it in my list of things I must read to understand the topic. I have a whole list of textbooks on molecular biology, and the fucking Bible's not in the list.
Yeah.
And then he said, I'm glad you are willing to read the Bible if you find out contains subjects of your interest. What do you mean by the phrase has to do with?
So is Doki Doki a female or a male?
Yes, I was waiting
It doesn't
for you
matter.
to. Yeah,
It doesn't matter.
I don't
We'll call him a
think it
they.
matters to you, but I believe it's a woman, and I'm pretty sure. And I for some reason, I think she would be older.
No,
I don't know how old, but
no, we're going to call Doki Doki they and them.
okay,
That's fine with me.
That's fine. I mean, I don't.
We don't know.
I'm pretty sure it's a female, and she's very pleasant. She always says hi to me when I, enter into
They do.
chat. But of course, it's because of my name in chat. That tends to bring on a little more sensitivity, if you know what I mean.
Well, no,
Now, Chris is saying Doki is a man.
Oh, okay.
it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. True. Yes. I was just under the impression Doki Doki was a female or something, but
I thought so too, but very pleasant to me all the time.
Well, yeah, very pleasant to me too. It's just that
Yeah.
I was having a little trouble communicating with the Doki.
Yeah,
The Doki was not hearing my words that I was saying out of my
I got
my
that.
keyboard.
That's for sure. Yeah, exactly.
yeah, stuck on some concept that they won't even
Yeah,
interpret your words within their own context.
Can't
honestly,
even hear. the word.
my explanation for that is that if you, obviously this person, whether it's a male or female, is one of SFT's biggest fans, right? So that tells you something. That's all this person, if they are the biggest fan of SFT, this is all they think about is the Bible. Like the Bible never leaves their brain in every sentence and everything they say and do. Like, so that doesn't surprise me with the response that you get. Like, you know what I mean?
That's why they think evolutionists, as they put it, which evolutionists do not identify themselves as evolutionists because evolutionists do not identify as believing in evolution.
Right.
It's just sort of like believing what we know.
Right.
And evolution, and that's also why they constantly bring up our worldview, our naturalistic worldview. Well, we don't fucking have one of those. What we have is methodological naturalism, which means you look at the details, and when you look at enough details, you can make some overall guesses about what's going on. And one of those overall guesses is common origin for a number of species, right?
Yep.
And when we say common origin, even, we don't necessarily mean common population. We don't mean like two little bunnies sitting there somewhere, you know, a long time ago, begat a bunch of bunch of other bunnies. We mean a population of something begat bunnies. That's what we mean. And it drives me crazy that they're constantly. It's because this is the way they think, because they start with the Bible. And Fuzz Rana, when you listen to this whole talk on junk DNA, he is referring to his belief in the Bible, and in Christianity. He is not talking about science.
Yeah.
And he's trying to make all of the scientific information that he reads fit into that particular storyline. And that is what's wrong with people like Fuzz Rana. That's why you cannot listen to them. No matter what their credentials, you cannot trust what they're saying, because they speak with two tongues. You know, they're just not. Drives me crazy.
I'm amazed at all the PhDs and, you know, people that have these higher educations. You know, I can see being religious and all that, but a guy, he's gone so far as I don't know how I should put this. He's gone so far as like he's almost like thrown out his education because of his religious beliefs. Almost.
Oh yeah, but
he uses it. He kind of like I'm kind of having a hard time trying to explain what I mean by that. By like he still uses his education, but his Bible and his religious beliefs are far more important than his education, I guess. I don't know if that's the right way.
And what do you think his annual income is now that he joined the Creation Ministries, as opposed to what it was when he was a scientist?
Right, probably a lot more, I assume. I don't know.
I'm guessing about twice as much.
Yeah, I wouldn't doubt it. Yeah,
he's written books, and he's invited to talk about things. And well, are you going to let him in, Scott? Or God damn it?
Yeah, usually a lot of these guys in those positions, it comes down to money. That they're in there making a shitload of money doing what they're doing. Right? Yeah.
Yep.
Dr. Dan, you do not get to sell out. Even if you were going to make millions of dollars, you do not get to sell out. Your integrity as a scientist is important to more people than you know.
I'm with you, Dr. Dan. I want to sell out too. Let me know how we do this.
Oh, damn it. None of you have integrity.
You know, Speed, when you're talking about how you only got through a couple chapters of Genesis, it reminds me when I was a kid, someone told me to read the Bible. So I went to the library, got a Bible. I don't remember which one, but I didn't get very far into Genesis before I felt like the authors are trying to insult me. So I put the book down and found a different book.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You had the same experience as me. I'm like, what are you talking about?
And I bet it happened to you when you were a kid too.
Yeah.
I think I read like 2 pages of it, and I was like, okay, I'm done with this.
Yeah, I found it boring too.
Yeah.
It's quite a few Christians have told me since that I should try reading it again. And I asked them why. Has the book been changed?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
There's a Bible that Kip Davis, I don't know if you know him. He's an Old Testament scholar. He works on deciphering the Dead Sea Scrolls. I say deciphering, translating the Dead Sea Scrolls.
Okay.
And he recommends the Brick Bible, BRICK. And I think it's like almost like all these Lego characters in a 2-volume Bible set. So it's like a kid's story format.
Oh, I've seen that. That one's fantastic.
You might want to get that and redo it. See what they'll do, and unless they have some way to make it entertaining, is they just skip the begats and go to the interesting stuff.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the begats, like so and so begat so and so, who was the son of so and so, and he did marry.
I saw a video of somebody reviewing this book years ago, and it was everybody was laughing, and their comments on the video were hilarious.
Yeah. That may be a good way to at least expose yourself to some of the vague.
I have a plan actually. I'm intending to write a feminized version of the Bible, and so I'm going to have to read the King James version to do this.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
How are you going to handle that Corinthians thing that tells women to shut the fuck up?
Oh, it's going to be telling men to do that.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Oh, so you're just going to flop it and provide female
Kind
privilege?
of, something like that. I've got a whole idea in mind for that. Well, I'm going to put something together. I'm probably going to call it the Queen Jane's edition.
Oh, there you go.
Oh, there was one guy that was being real nasty. I think was it in Praises? It might have. No, it wasn't in this video here. It was in Praises. It was talking about, don't you want your woman to obey you and obey your commands? And I forget some really disgusting.
In the
some real disgusting stuff. He was writing a whole bunch of stuff in the
BDSM community. There's a lot of men obeying women.
Yeah. Ideally, I want everybody to obey my command.
Yeah, that would be nice. But
ideally,
yeah,
ain't just women.
Yeah,
it's like,
oh yeah, he started talking about, don't you want to marry a virgin wife and keep her pure and this and that, and some of the stuff he was writing in chat, it was like, holy crap, these people.
With all the perverted guys out there getting into religion, I wonder if religion would be more popular if they were worshiping a goddess instead of a god sometimes.
Yeah. In my early life, it was the other way around. My first wife married a virgin guy, but I wonder if that pleased her. I don't know. Well, I guess we didn't exactly wait until we got married, but anyway.
Oh, Andrew's in chat. I wonder if he went over this video. I know there was some stuff in there that would have interested him a lot, and he was in this. I told you he was in the side chat, and he said he was going to go back and listen to it. So,
yeah, I have a few links on this video, but I'm not sure if I'm entirely ready to discuss this video because there's a lot in it. But I did want to mention functional DNA, and so anyway, they're talking about junk DNA versus functional DNA, or functional DNA. Did I say DNA?
Yeah.
Which is basically a fucking screwed up dichotomy. and it may be something that was alive and well in the 70s or the 60s, back in that last century in the Dark Ages a long time ago. Yep. A long time ago in a galaxy far away, they used to talk about junk DNA and functional DNA. Well, the word functional DNA is as problematic as junk DNA. Because what in the hell do you mean exactly by functional? Because if you mean that every little piece of DNA has some job to perform, then you got a problem. Because when you're born, your cells start to divide. And when they start to divide, they make errors, mutations, errors in your somatic cell line, right?
Yep.
And so if every single bit of it is functional, then you would be dead before you were a month old. You certainly wouldn't grow into an adult,
right?
Because you need to divide a whole lot of cells to grow into an adult, and you would have bone cancer, and you'd have a million things wrong with you. So the thing about all DNA is a molecule, and all molecules are going to have some biochemical function inside of a cell, even if they're just hanging around, getting in the way. They are going to have some. They're going to do something. They're going to have some cause and effect, right?
Yep.
So there can't be DNA that is completely without biochemical activity. And that's what ENCODE found, surprisingly, that there was a hell of a lot more transcription than they thought. Now, 50% of your DNA is a bunch of viruses. And they're copies, the copies of each other, multiple copies of, oh, here we go, CRISPR. He can speak to this. I did invite him. Yeah. So anyway, this thing about functional DNA, I'm pushing back against the term functional because it doesn't I mean, how do you define function exactly?
Well, right? Firstly, junk DNA is not a problematic term.
I think it is.
It's not.
But go ahead.
Junk DNA is a reference to the source of the category. It is not a... So, firstly, do you have a junk drawer? I've got a junk drawer.
Yeah.
Do you have one? Is it filled with literal garbage?
No, I got stuff in it I want to keep.
Do you think that some of it needs to go in the trash?
Maybe a couple things, yeah.
Right. Okay. That's why it's junk. If Ohno had meant garbage, he would have said garbage.
Yeah,
He said junk because it's junk, right?
Yeah.
Because the source of these sequences, right, is a junk source. They come from a place that is not likely to produce functional relevance, right?
Right.
It doesn't mean it can't. It doesn't mean it doesn't. It means that as a category, the category is junk.
Yeah,
Now, if you show me ERVs as a category are junk, show me an ERV that if you get rid of it, it's fatal for humans, right? It's still junk because it is in the category of junk. It just isn't garbage.
Yeah. Yeah, I got some junk drawers that I haven't opened for 10 years.
Right. And here's part of it too, is that it starts out junk, and the longer it's there not being used, the quicker it goes to being garbage.
Yeah.
But certainly it could have a use. Some of it does. There are some things that have known functionality. Still junk because it's still in a category of junk.
That's a great analogy. That's good. Because I got a drawer with a voltmeter in it, and I haven't opened that drawer for 10 years and haven't used that voltmeter for 10 years. Doesn't mean the voltmeter is completely useless and won't come into play, but the chances are my sons are going to sell it in a garage sale as junk, after I die, because I'm never going to need a voltmeter again. I don't know. But
yeah, so this is something it really annoys me, and I see this topic come up a lot, and it's just like I don't know who it is that has such a passionate conviction that junk means necessarily useless. But I see people on both sides of this conversation, both the people who want to say, well, there is no junk DNA, right?
Yeah,
insisting that junk means useless. And you have people on the other side who want to say, yeah, most DNA is junk DNA, insisting that junk means useless. And I hear things like, well, this one sequence was shown to have function, so it's not junk because it's conserved. No, it's still junk because its source is junk.
The adage, one man's junk is another man's treasure, comes to mind here.
Right, because the junk refers to the category of the sequence, not the function of the sequence.
Uh-huh.
Okay, now on the ENCODE project, exactly what did they find? They found that 80% did what?
They found evidence that 80% of the genome was within about a kilobase of a sequence resembling something that should be transcribed, or there was at least like one transcript in one cell line or something like that.
Could they detect one transcript?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Yeah.
Well, I mean, they did detect one transcript. That doesn't mean there was only one transcript. It means that's how many they detected.
Yeah, but I mean, they could detect that they could go down that fine. That is possible to detect one.
No, because if you're detecting one copy out of every 1,000,
yeah,
then if you detect one, it means there is probably 1,000.
Okay,
but the point is that you should be seeing if actively transcribed regions will have a 1,000 or something, right? You'll have not 1,000. You'll have a fragments per million base pair of like I don't know, 10, 20, 30, whatever. And then you see these ENCODE transcripts that are like 0.00005 or something. So it's just noise. This is spurious transcription.
What confuses me is we got like I've seen estimates of 52% of the DNA is transposons.
Transposable elements.
Yeah, transposable elements. So if 80% of those are transcribed, when those things are transcribed, aren't they kind of nasty? They tend to insert themselves somewhere.
Most of them are not. Most of them are not still competent.
Okay, so but they're saying that 80% of them are transcribed. That's what the ENCODE people are, not the ENCODE people, but the fuzz Ranas are saying.
Right, but if they're not competent, it means they can't transpose.
Yeah, because they've had mutations, basically.
Right, they're derived from a transposon.
So what percentage are competent and active? What percentage of that?
I have no idea.
Okay.
Also, Daniel Bennet, if you want to keep saying things that are wrong, you should at least say them out loud in the room.
Yeah, even if only 2% of the genome were functional, that would still be evidence for what? Why?
There is no percentage. There is no percentage of the genome. There is no possible percent functionality that a genome could be that would be evidence for intelligence.
Right. Even if it was 100. Oh. Hi, Andrew.
Hello. I came in because I had a kind of topic or set of questions for CRISPR, if that's all right.
Sure, Andrew.
I mean, are we done talking about
DNA? It's kind of related to this and what Daniel was talking about, the idea of intelligence and functionality and things like that.
Okay, but if you talk about cosmology, I'm throwing you out. Okay, go ahead.
Right. So basically, there's this idea, once you have the idea of a nested hierarchy, right? The creationists try and explain it using the idea of shared features, shared function, right? So I know that there are things like pseudogenes and like you were saying, non-functional elements of the genome that refute that idea. I was also wondering if things like, because we often bring up synonymous substitutions, and I know that synonymous substitutions have some effect on protein synthesis and translation. And
are we talking about ribosomal pausing?
They can, yeah. They don't necessarily.
Andrew, are we talking about ribosomal pausing?
Yeah.
Also, the effect size of that is usually so small that it's effectively neutral in humans. So there's no real evidence of conservation for the most part of that type of variant.
Yeah, the one we studied most, I think, is prolactin in bovine genome, and what it found is that there was some regulation, basically, of prolactin based on ribosomes being paused and colliding, so that the ribosomes were very close to each other on the mRNA. And there's a paper, I think I linked it in the last weather report or something. But anyway, so
yeah, it's possible. I mean, like the ribosomal pausing is a thing, right? But
yeah.
But the thing is that type of sequence regulation is generally speaking of a very small effect size, and it's kind of like codon bias. It's kind of like codon bias, right? Where codon bias is a fairly small effect size, but in bacteria or a virus with massive effective population sizes, that really slight selective advantage is readily selected for. But in humans, just noise. So
would it then be accurate to say that it's not critical for function, but it does affect it, just not very much?
So it doesn't affect the function, it affects the expressivity.
Oh, okay.
Everything has an effect. Overall, the cell as a total has to survive.
Right.
No matter what's going on, no matter what kind of stochastic craziness is going on, overall the cell has to survive, or it doesn't. And if the cell doesn't survive and the cell happens to be a zygote, then that thing is not going to put its genome into the future. Okay, but if it's a somatic cell and it dies, well, it'll probably be replaced by another cell. So, I mean, it's just this idea of functional is just, it's used badly. I mean, don't you agree, CRISPR, that this...
Welcome to the conversation. You got a great guest here, guys. Duvalier Malone.
What in the hell is going on? Anyway, I don't think that was me. So, to say something functional, it's not exactly a binary condition, it's functional. Some DNA is functional because because of its length, because like if you're pulling a car, you may want the rope to be 3 car lengths long instead of 1, that sort of thing. So I mean, the overuse of the term functional and this dichotomy between functional and junk just kind of drives me up a wall.
Well, again, that is a category error, because function is a property of a specific sequence. Junk is a property of the category of the sequence.
Okay, good. Yeah, that makes sense.
So they're not even talking about the same thing.
Yeah. Yep.
Could you explain that one more time? Because I don't think I quite understand what you mean by category of the sequence.
So like a category, so like ERVs are a category of sequence found in the human genome, right?
Right.
The category of ERVs is junk DNA. They are categorized as junk DNA. It doesn't matter if they're functional or not, right? It could be, you could find an ERV in the human genome where if you knock it out, it's fatal, right? Still junk, because the category is junk. Junk says nothing about functionality necessarily, right? It might imply something about functionality. It certainly does, actually. It implies that it's not likely it's functional. Most junk DNA is not functional. But that doesn't mean, it's not a guarantee, right? Sure, some junk DNA is functional. No one ever said that no junk DNA is functional. Ohno, in the 1970 paper, said that some junk DNA was functional.
Right.
So,
but there are still enough non-functional parts of the genome that's not so much a problem, right?
But it's not even that, right? The reason that it's called junk is because of the source of the DNA. It's because of where that DNA comes from, right? So it's not saying that it's junk because it doesn't do anything. It's saying it's junk because it comes from a junk source, right?
Okay.
Like if you went to a junkyard, right, and you found a piece of scrap and you thought it was pretty and you took it home and you put it on your desk, it was still from a junkyard, right? The source is still a junkyard. Now, you may have found a function for this piece of junk. Doesn't make it not junk.
Right. Right, yeah, because things can be co-opted over time.
Right, yeah, and that's exactly it. Right.
Okay. Yeah, I was just curious because like I said, they often ask or they often repeat this concept that most of the genome is functional and therefore that it all is a function and that disproves common ancestry or something like that.
Well, they assert that with no evidence.
Right. I guess I was just making sure that there were parts of the genome that were still considered non-functional, such that this idea of shared function or shared feature, shared function is kind of rebutted, basically.
Well, there's other problems with it as well, right? I mean, for one thing, why would you necessarily have the same? You often see shared functionality, right, between divergent groups with no shared design between them. And the creationist says, well, but that's no problem for a designer. Well, that's just a cop-out.
Is that homoplasia in this case, or
Yeah.
or do I have it backwards?
Heteroplasia, homoplasia is the same. But
okay.
No. So the point is that you could have two completely different proteins that do the same thing, right?
Right.
And so why not just use the same protein in both places? And they'll say, well, designer can do whatever he wants. Well, then you don't have an argument.
Okay, so it's not just it's all homoplasia or it's all not homoplasia. It's the amount of each, basically.
No, it's the distribution.
Right. Yeah, because then they point to well, there's too much convergence going on for natural or for common ancestry to be true. And
there's basically convergence. There is only apparent convergence.
Right.
This is a common mistake. There is no complete convergence.
Right. It's only convergent in the sense that it's hard to figure out exactly the origin of both, right? So it's more like
usually possible.
Right. Yeah, it's just difficult. It's not impossible though.
So like wings are convergent evolution, but it's real easy to tell the difference between vertebrate wings.
Sure.
Right? They're three independent occurrences. So far, we're working on two more. Possibly three more. Now that I think about it. But all of them distinct from one another. So yeah, I mean, they're convergent because they're still wings, but they are not the same. There is no complete convergence.
Yeah, so it seems like in terms of this idea of convergence versus homologous sequences or structures, they're trying to have their cake and eat it too, right? In terms of like the designer can do.
They're just saying whatever they think will confuse or delay the person they're talking to.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
And the Ohno paper from 72. Let me see. Dead air? Did I disconnect?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, no. So I don't know why Daniel Bennet is so worried about coming into the room. I mean,
he is.
Rather than just spout off random ignorant nonsense in the chat every day, why not come in here and say it out loud?
If junk DNA is functional, then that is evidence of the designer.
Yeah, it's difficult to think of anything more inane than that.
So one of Fuzz Rana's arguments was that if something is transcribed and it is not really useful, then natural selection would have got rid of it because it's going to take a lot of energy to transcribe stuff. Yeah, I know.
I mean, so firstly, it doesn't take that much energy to transcribe things, and most of that energy is recovered.
He says it takes a whole lot. So he made a point in this video, and he was talking about how much it takes. And even if that were the case, isn't it true that eukaryotic cells have a hell of a lot of ATP laying around? Yeah,
they do. Yeah, so that's just confusing the energy budget. And when you're talking about something as complicated as, say, a person, right? That amount of energy budget is not a relevant quantity.
Yeah.
More than that, though, it is literally impossible to have the transcriptional system that that we have as life on Earth without there being massive amounts of spurious transcription.
Right.
It is not possible to not have it. Now, that's not to say that it's not possible to have a different form of transcriptional regulation, right? That could do that. But that's not what we have, right? Yeah. And what we have is very noisy. It is very leaky by the necessity of the biochemistry under use. So the reason that it doesn't get rid of it is because the only way that you could get rid of it would be to get rid of all of the desired transcription too. That's no good. And here's a point too, is that you see from a lot of creationists this discussion of, you know, that they're so amazed, they're so taken with the fact that, you know, there's digital storage, right? That, you know, but the thing is that the bases are digital, the interactions are analog. The amino acid.
How's it digital?
Well, it's digital because it's either A, or it's T, or it's G, or it's C.
Okay.
It's not a given base is not 73% A, right? 22% G, and the remainder T. It's
so you're saying it's discrete, so therefore, okay.
Yeah, that's what digital means.
Yeah.
But the thing is, though, is that the interactions are not digital.
Right.
The interactions are continuous.
Yeah, they're analog. So
I want to take this chance to greet Mr. Jefferson Spatchcock.
Mr. Jefferson.
Hello, everybody. Thank you.
Hello. So here's Daniel Bennet still at it. Let's see. We found that waiting times are reduced by higher mutation rates. Stronger. What? What is he going on about?
Who's this week? Daniel, are you working in the field? Why don't you come on in and have a chat with Speed and Cass?
Higher mutation rates. Stronger.
He says he's talking about the waiting time problem.
Yeah, the waiting time problem is bullshit.
But what is he saying here? We're reduced.
I believe he's quoting. Is that Behe?
Or is it stronger fitness? Yeah, and like if you look at Lenski's bacteria, some of them had higher mutation rates, and occasionally that happens.
No, it's Stanford. Sorry.
Okay,
yeah, the waiting time problem is just nonsense.
Yeah. Oh, but Daniel Bennet is apparently working in the field because he did say we.
No, he's quoting John Sanford.
Sorry, Speed. I didn't mean to grab the highlight.
I was trying to read this. Even using the most generous feasible parameter settings, the waiting time required to establish any specific. It depends on the fucking population and a number of other things.
John Sanford has never been honest about what constitutes generous parameter settings.
Right.
So.
Yeah. Okay. Dismissed. Anyway. So you referred to a 1972 Ohno paper. Do you happen to know the title?
So much junk in our DNA.
Really? It was about junk? Oh, that one. Oh, yeah. Okay. Got it. So much junk DNA in our genome. And this one happens to be in Chinese, and that's very disappointing. Or Japanese.
If you just Google Ohno junk DNA, it'll be the second link is the full paper.
Okay.
I actually had a question related to Sanford and GE, but I don't know if it'll derail the conversation.
It might, but it's vaguely relevant. Also, to Daniel Bennet, that paper was not properly peer reviewed,
Ooh.
And the editor, I believe, was forced to resign afterward.
Which
Unless
one?
I'm thinking of the wrong one. The Sanford paper in question.
Oh, okay. Oh, is that the one that caused that little controversy? Dennis Noble should have been asked to resign over that lobster thing. Lobsters from outer space.
Oh, yeah. No,
Yeah.
you're thinking of...
Yeah. But he wasn't because there are some people that are so entrenched in the Royal Society that it is impossible to make them go away, no matter what they do. He could have invaded fucking Israel and he wouldn't have been asked to resign. Anyway, just an opinion.
Should I go ahead, Speed?
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, we're kind of got dead air here. So.
Oh, okay. All right. So CRISPR.
Actually, just really fast. Daniel Bennet said something else. MicroRNAs are not junk DNA. They are not in the category of junk.
Where's he talking about microRNAs? Oh, Benghazi, Daniel Bennet. I'm quoting from a science paper. Blah, blah, blah. Oh, that one. Okay, microRNAs are approximately 20. Yeah, right. We know microRNAs. Yep. Yeah, I agree. Useful little devils for regulation.
So it's not even a question of whether or not they're functional, because it's not even a question of whether or not they're functional junk DNA, because they're not junk DNA.
Well, they don't even affect function, right? They affect expression.
Well, that the microRNA has a function, and that function is affecting expression.
Oh, okay. Should I go ahead now, Speed?
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, you're fine.
Okay. I was just waiting to see if we were still going on MicroRNA. So
well, I mean, I can keep going, but I don't know if I'm wanted to. I mean, yeah, this is one of the interesting things because actually, yeah, just you go ahead.
Okay. Would you mind, I guess, elaborating on mutation, kind of this mutation balance idea that I know Dr. Dan has gone over it, but I'm still trying to figure out the details of it. Like, could you like summarize the basics of it, I guess?
I'm sorry. I think my audio cut out for a second. Summarize the basics of what?
Of mutation balance in respect to genetic entropy.
You mean mutation selection balance, or?
Is there a difference between deleterious advantageous mutation balance and mutation selection balance?
Well, okay, yeah, there might be. So if you have, imagine a distribution of fitness effects that is normally distributed, right? About zero. Okay, so you have a normal curve around zero, with zero being zero fitness effect, right? And we'll just assume that there's no selection at all, right? So if that distribution of fitness effects is symmetrical around zero, then what do you expect the fitness to be after in generations?
Hovering around zero.
Right, it'll be about zero because you're as likely to get a beneficial as a deleterious. So they should all cancel out.
Okay.
Now, the actual distribution of fitness effects is not symmetrical.
Right.
Right? The actual distribution of fitness effects has is bimodal, right? It has a strong left-hand peak of basically lethal, because there's a lot of really bad things you can do, right?
Right.
And
So, like,
then
take it from the local optimum downhill, basically.
well, no, it's not even downhill, it's just dead.
Oh, okay.
Right, like if you've got a male, right, for instance, and there's a mutation that completely removes the mobility of sperm, right? The male will live out his life just fine, but his fitness is 0 because he has no offspring.
Yep.
Right.
And so there's just so many ways that you can do that you get this big peak at the left side, right? Of
Right.
Negative, right? Anyway, and then that drops off real fast, and then you get not too many moderately negative mutations occur.
Okay.
And then you get more and more, and you get this big peak at 0. And then it drops off again, and then you get a long tail, a long right-hand tail of beneficial mutations. Okay?
Okay.
Here's the thing, though, about that tail. It's discontinuous. There's a reason it is discontinuous, right? So it's not a smooth curve. And the reason is that effective selection has a window of about 1 over 2 NE, right? About 1 over twice the effective population size.
Okay.
So what that means is any mutation that could occur in that population that was greater than that would have already happened and would have already been efficiently selected and fixed in the population.
Okay.
And what that means is that right at that line, you get a drop, just a sharp drop, discontinuous drop down. And then you get a long tail from there that represents the things that could happen now that might be slightly different, that might be benefit in the immediate environment that had not been necessarily beneficial in previous environments. Right? And that's why it's a very small tail. So you'll notice a couple things about that. First, inside the range of effectively neutral, it is normally distributed. If you are only looking at inside of that range, it is a normal distribution, as near as we can tell.
Okay.
Everything outside of that range, to the left, deleterious outside of nearly neutral, doesn't matter because it's effectively selected out. Right? It's effectively removed from the population by selection. So if the stuff in neutrality is normally distributed and balanced between beneficial and deleterious, and the stuff outside but deleterious is effectively removed, what's left? That tail, no matter how small, necessarily biases the system towards beneficial mutation.
Right.
But what's even more than that is that you have that range of effectively neutral mutations. Well, they're effectively neutral in the current environment.
Right.
Which means you've got a buildup of this variation in the population that's effectively neutral. But then what happens when the environment changes? You get a bunch of mutations that had built up that are now effectively deleterious, that get chopped out. And you've got a bunch of mutations that are now effectively beneficial, that get fixed right away. And so that standing variation that builds up inside of that effective neutrality will immediately become fixed for beneficial and extinct for deleterious in a small number of generations as soon as the environment shifts any.
So you're saying as the environment shifts, that basically the distribution of what is optimal basically changes, and that's the balance.
Well, no. Selection mutation balance is the idea that you hit a point where the number of new deleterious mutations, the rate at which those occur, is balanced against the rate at which mutations of that effect size can be removed, right? So you're going to be just a hair underneath ideal, because you get a balance where you're removing mutations as rapidly as they're occurring, right? And so it's not that they're fixed in the population, it's that there's a constant number present.
Right. So then if there's a balance there, then populations evolve when that balance shifts because new slightly beneficial mutations occur.
Yeah, well, they don't need to be new. That's the thing.
Oh, okay, because the environment can change. All right.
Right.
Okay.
Lincoln, some papers.
Yeah, I notice there's a tendency for people throughout history to, if we don't understand what its use is, then it's junk. And it hits me as this is a bit of an arrogant attitude to assume that we understand all aspects of things.
Yeah, I don't think anybody really holds to that very seriously. That if we don't know what it does yet, it's junk.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think that's common, perhaps. Yeah.
Well, actually, what I keep saying is that it doesn't matter what it does. It isn't a category of junk whether it does something or not.
Yeah, that's an interesting perspective that I had not heard until today. So, the category. But anyway, so Daniel Bennet referenced this paper here. Lin He, junk DNA isn't. I'm not sure what this is about, but I put two papers that I caught from Daniel in the description. I'm not sure if he has any others. But so this is what the hell does this one say? The child of Western trained engineers, Lin He grew up. So this is an article. Where the hell is this? People and ideas. Okay. Anybody want to look into this?
Right. So this is confusing. This is confusing the notion that, and this is actually pretty common, is that people think that non-coding DNA is synonymous with junk DNA, and that's wrong.
Yeah.
So let me again go back to 1972 with Ohno, right? He knew about tRNAs at the time. tRNAs are non-coding DNA. Do you think he thought tRNAs were junk DNA?
That Ohno 1972, they call it a paper. It's not. It looks like about a 3-page letter.
Yeah, it's pretty short, but it's quite influential.
Yeah, so I'll link that in the chat. There's a photocopy of it, but I can't seem to find a downloadable PDF version of it. Let me see here. Creationists, Refuting. Ohno 1972. I'll put that in the description. I found one. Kind of a slippery one, hard to find. Anyway. Okay.
Hey, Christopher. So you mentioned fitness real quick. And I often hear it defined both in terms of the individual's genotype and the individual's phenotype. And I was wondering if the former of the genotype, is it related at all to Dawkins' concept of a gene-centered view of evolution? Or am I mistaken?
So firstly, I would generally avoid putting terribly much stock into anything that Dawkins says.
Yep.
Okay.
Agreed.
So, to actually answer your question, no, not really. Genotypes. I'm getting a bit of feedback here.
Don't know why. It should correct.
Well-
Hang on a second. Let me see if it's me.
Is it me?
Go ahead. I'm going to mute.
Well, whoever just muted, I think that fixed it. Anyway, genotypes only have fitness through their phenotype.
Right.
Right. So it doesn't make any sense to say what is the fitness of a genotype absent its phenotype.
Okay.
I don't know what that means.
Okay.
I mean, again, for instance, if you think about, you could talk about, well, you have a genotype of having, 78 repeats instead of 72, right? For some repeat array, right?
Okay.
So, well, what's the phenotype? Having 78 repeats is the phenotype.
Right.
So, is there a fitness effect of having a few extra repeats? Well, there might be. It's going to be real small. Generally, possibly it isn't, but generally speaking, it's going to be real small.
So you're oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
So are you basically saying it's fitness is connected to phenotype, but we often measure the fitness of that phenotype in terms of the genotype because of population genetics and things like that?
Other way around.
Okay.
So fitness is a product of the phenotype, but we determine fitness on the basis of the abundance of genotypes, right?
Okay.
And then from that, we infer the fitness of the phenotype.
Okay.
But the genotype doesn't have fitness, right? It has expression.
Okay.
And that expression as a phenotype has fitness.
Okay, so it's still linear, or this leads to that kind of measuring relationship, or
yeah, I mean, yeah, because we say that so there's so you get into this concept of a G matrix and P matrix, right? And you're trying to trying to map one to the other is a difficult problem that other people in my lab work on. I don't, because I don't do morphology. But anyway, so the issue is that the phenotype is not purely a product of genetics. It's also a product of other interactions with the environment and a bunch of other stuff.
Right.
Right. But nonetheless, it's the phenotype that has fitness, right? So if you have a genotype that in one environment produces one phenotype, but in another environment, because of the interactions with that environment, it produces a completely different phenotype, Well, what's the fitness of that genotype? Obviously, it depends on the environment you're in, right?
Right. So
Well,
so is
how do you
this
how do you tease that apart?
right? Is this connected to why, or because I often hear it can be measured in terms of the genotype or the phenotype? Is that kind of connected to what you're saying?
That fitness can be measured as either the genotype or the phenotype?
Or I guess with respect to one or the other, maybe they were oversimplifying, I'm guessing.
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure what they would be trying to say there. I could probably come up with some understandings of it, but I mean, you can estimate the fitness of a phenotype of a genotype by measuring the abundance of that genotype. You can also measure the fitness of a phenotype directly through like competition experiments or something. And then to the extent that you have a one-to-one mapping between genotype and phenotype, right? Then you can, determine how accurate your assessment from the genotype alone might be. But that's, I think, beside the point.
Right. So it's basically sort of, but not really, kind of a matter of what scale you're kind of looking at in terms of trying to think about it, because I understand what you're saying, of like looking at it in terms of, okay, this phenotype is doing well because the genotype is being passed on at this rate, and you can also measure it in terms of the phenotype itself.
No, sorry. The phenotype is doing well, resulting in the genotype being passed on at a certain rate.
Oh, okay, my bad. Yeah, it kind of gets a bit confusing in the language.
Right, because you don't say that the phenotype is doing well because the genotype is being passed on. I mean, I guess that's sort of true, but it's not. It doesn't have the right feel to it, right? It's
So you're
it's sort of
saying
circular. If you put it in that order, it makes it kind of circular.
Yeah.
So it's basically you're always measuring the fitness by phenotype. It's just whether or not you're also incorporating genotype into it as a result of that.
Well, let's say I have no phenotypic data at all, right? Let's say all I know is the presence or absence of a particular SNP in some population of bacteria, right?
Okay.
So I can determine the fitness of the fitness associated, not the fitness of a particular allele, but the fitness associated with that allele on the basis of the prevalence of that allele in the population.
Right.
I don't even know what the phenotype is yet. But based on the abundance, I can estimate the fitness effect of that associated with that allele. And all I have is the genotype. But it is still the case that it is the expression of that allele into a phenotype that results in fitness.
Yeah, therein lies the bullshit that Danny and Fodor mounted the attack against natural selection. Is this when you said associated rather than, we don't know basically exactly what that SNP is how it's interrelated, that sort of thing. All we can tell you is that it's in the population and it's fixing in the population, and that tells you something about its fitness, right?
Yeah, it does. I mean, Fodor is wrong for a variety of other reasons.
Variety of reasons, right?
So what I'm basically taking away before we move on is that you're measuring the genotype, but the genotype is expressed in terms of the phenotype, and that's what's causing the results you get in the genotype.
That's what's causing the difference in fitness.
Right.
Even though you're inferring the fitness purely on the basis of measured abundance of the genotype, it isn't the genotype that is causing fitness. It is the expression of that genotype as a particular phenotype.
Okay, so it's an indirect measure, basically.
Yes.
Okay, that makes a lot more sense. Thanks. Sorry, Speed. Continue.
Topdawg started a post on junk DNA in our Science and Naturalism, and Topdawg so far is the only one doing any work. The rest of us are lazy, useless bastards. Anyway. Including me. Yeah, I got nothing else, so you guys can go ahead.
Well, Jefferson, how what did you think of your review of Praise's? Let's see, what was Praise doing? He was defending Darth Dawkins, white knighting for Darth Dawkins. I caught that this morning.
He kind of did. I didn't get through it. I brought my brother in for a little bit of it. I think we made it to about 45 minutes in, which means there's about an hour and 20 minutes left or something like that. And I haven't listened to the rest of it. I think I talked to my brother earlier today, and he listened to more of it, but it's just kind of more of the same. So I don't know if I'm gonna do like a part 2 yet or not. It was well, I can't even really say it was interesting. It was very Praise-like, you know.
You know where Bill Murray played the groundskeeper on that movie about golf? What, Caddyshack?
Caddyshack, yeah.
Oh, no.
It's about the same intelligence level, of that character. I think of him when I think of Praise reviewing anything. Ever since he said that thing about propellers killing air molecules,
Yeah,
it's just comedy.
If you didn't see it in this one, because I hadn't watched it when I reviewed it that was the first time I really watched it. I previewed like the first 4 minutes, but there's a part where he says gravity can only be tested by math.
What?
Wow.
That's a statement, and I'm making that verbatim. Gravity can only be tested by math or
it's
with math.
Based on math, but it's not just tested by math. What does it even mean to test something by math?
He was conflating the actual phenomenon with the law of gravity.
Yeah, there's a lot of dead people that would disagree with him on that.
There's also that thing about the conflation between I shouldn't say conflation. I should say the am I getting feedback? Oh, yeah. Never mind.
Not for me.
I thought it was Jefferson for a sec, but never mind.
There might be noise coming through mine. Let me mute.
So like this whole idea of a theory basically being a hypothesis that has grown up into sort of a law, basically, when in reality a theory is composed of many separate hypotheses that are all united by one general idea that explains all of them, basically. And I think that's something that we should drive home more often, in my opinion.
Did anybody during that review, Jefferson, did anybody hear Praise talk about, he was criticizing somebody on flip-flopping? He had brought that up, and I happened to be drinking a cup of coffee, and I almost choked to death when he said that during that. Like he was actually criticizing somebody else or something.
Who would know better than Praise?
Yeah, I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it. Yeah,
Projection.
Another typical Praise.
I mean,
oh man.
I don't remember who he. I know that at one point my brother was like, I found another part where he he's like he's listening to you explain something. He's like you're going off into on a longer explanation, and he pauses it about 4 times throughout the whole thing, and then the last time he pauses it and you finish saying whatever, he pauses it again, and then he's just like, I don't even know what Jefferson's talking about here. And he's like, of course you don't know, like you didn't even listen to it. Like I would say like 6 words and he'd pause it and then try to break it down from there. I'm like, oh man, it was like in the 45 minutes that we reviewed, I caught him doing that at least once, and it was bad. Like I was trying to like, I think he thought at one point I was telling the audience about something Alex Malpass had corrected Darth Dawkins on, and he pauses it, and then he starts talking like it was my position, like it was something that I said. It's very cringy.
Yeah. He's not all that bright. We all know that.
It's like I was looking forward to getting some criticism for stuff, but then it was like, for the most part, comments have been really positive for any of the videos that I've done. Yeah. Other than some criticism, get Shannon Q back or something like that,
Yeah. Where are we talking about Redefine Living?
No. Darth Dawkins.
Oh, then who's the spreader I keep hearing? I'm confused. I'm sorry.
No.
Yeah, if you mean my brother, that's Jay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, I misunderstood.
No, that's Jay is usually like the praise whisperer. I didn't want to do it, but Praise had set it up so perfectly because he was like, his biggest complaint was that I do a lot of Darth Dawkins based content, and I was like, well, here's an opportunity for me to do more Darth Dawkins based content in honor of Praise, just for him. So I couldn't resist.
Well, Jefferson, I do have to say that I think you definitely are the person to review Darth Dawkins stuff because of, at least in my perspective, you mix in the biblical part of his arguments, and because you're so knowledgeable about all the biblical concepts and all the, different aspects in that area, I think you do a fantastic job of tearing him apart, basically. Because you add that, and not too many people do, because he doesn't really, it's all precept, so it's, but it's, I don't know, just the way his arguments are, I guess.
I think he's actually, like, some of his, like, the more I've talked about him, the more confused I am from the theological side, because I kind of started off watching the YouTube videos from the apologists that were into precept, and then kind of gave up on it because I just felt it, it was just too circular and everything. And I started reading Bart Ehrman and textbooks and stuff, and started studying the biblical stuff. And now that I'm kind of like focusing on Tom Rabbit's content, because it's nicely curated there for me, I can talk about it. I think I'm starting to get a better handle on like most of the inconsistencies he's got with his philosophical approach, but I'm still very confused about how he handles, because there's one video where he says something about, he's talking about the Trinity. And I think he believes that the Trinity became the Trinity when Jesus showed up. I mean, he doesn't say that, but there's a couple things that he says that it sounds, because he says something about the Bible foreshadowing God's triune nature. And I'm like, well, if it's foreshadowing, it means he wasn't always triune. Like he becomes triune. It's really weird. So yeah, he still throws curveballs.
Yeah, I think you're right there. I do believe.
Well, that's interesting. Did Jesus exist before he ended up in a body?
Well, that's a contentious thing among Christians. The idea that if you hardcore believe in the Trinity, then Jesus had to be eternal, right along with the Holy Spirit and God the Father.
Yeah, the way I grew up and was taught, Jesus, and I believed it for a while. Jesus is eternal with the Father, co-eternal with the Father. So the idea about him being revealed later, seeing glimpses of the triune God in the Old Testament, is the fact that we're not aware of it, and we're not made aware of it until Jesus comes and then reveals himself as the Son of God.
That's pretty close to what I was, I think where the last church that I was in, that was their take too. Like Jesus was God. If you started to get into the details of it, like, well, did he become God after he died, or was he always God, or was he God when he was baptized, and that kind of stuff? And they didn't really want to talk about it. So,
yeah. Did I link the Apologia video on Apologia, and Shannon Q did a thing a few days ago how many days ago was it, Scott? Was it a month? Was it a long time ago? They did a thing on Corinthians and the biblical passage that tells women to shut the fuck up. That one?
I don't remember when we did it. Must have been a while ago.
Is it the passage that some scholars think was just kind of added after the fact?
Yeah, they address that, and Apologia explains the copy that they have. I guess the scribe used dash to indicate that he was going to comment on something, and so it's pretty weak. The idea that I think it's pretty much accepted that it was in the original. It is not accepted that it was added after the fact. So I don't know, but yeah, that's the one that tells women to shut the fuck up in church. Ask your husband if you have a question. Wait until you get home and ask the hubby. That's basically what it says in the Bible, pretty blatantly, and they have a hard time explaining that. But anyway, Apologia and Shannon Q did a thing on that, and I think, did I link it? Damn it, I didn't link it. I will link that.
So is Apologia kind of presenting like a scholarly opinion that they believe that was part of the original writing? It wasn't something that someone tweaked?
He presented an opinion that scholars have an opinion on that.
Okay.
So yeah, he didn't himself claim to be a scholar. So.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the consensus is on that, because I've heard I heard a presentation from I can't remember if it was Ehrman or if it was Goodacre that was saying something about that, but I can't remember what the.
Yeah, they really want to slip out from under that one. I'll tell you, because it's it's a pretty bad passage.
Yeah, there's a couple different ways that it works too, because like for some people that they'll try to say like they thought that it was added in later because it kind of contradicts with Paul's other attitudes when he writes about women being prophets, within the church or whatever.
Are we talking about 2 Timothy?
No, but that's actually where I was going with it.
Yeah, because second Timothy is
saying that a woman can't choose to have a submissive.
Here's the video. Anyway,
I don't think 2 Timothy is considered a Pauline epistle by a lot of scholars.
No, it's not.
Yeah, it's not. But that doesn't mean. But the question is, there's two separate questions, right? One is the verse in question a later addition, and the second is it accurately attributed to the author, right? And so it could be that the verse is in the original, but it's not an actual Pauline epistle. The reverse could also be true.
No, I mean, well, that's a weird one, because there's a huge amount of study. If the Bart Ehrman gets into it a little bit, but in the book Forged, there's actually whole segments of this is 2 Corinthians, right? Because I think this is the one that's actually, because 1 Corinthians is pretty easy, I think, for them to like. It's pretty definitively a Pauline epistle. 2 Corinthians is generally considered Pauline epistle, but there's big chunks of it that they're to have issues with. A lot of scholars do, and I think the reasons mostly have a lot to do with like syntactical changes and things like that. Like the Greek doesn't quite seem the same, and so and it's not just that passage. There's like other bits and pieces in there, so it's pretty complicated. It's not like gospel problem.
Talking about 2 Timothy though.
Oh no, in 2 Timothy. Well, that was the thing. So like with 2 Timothy, there were scholars that were saying, well, hey, we're pretty sure that 1 and 2 Timothy and Titus are not written by Paul. And one of the things is that Paul's attitude about women in the ministry is very different from some of the attitudes expressed by by Paul in the actual Pauline epistles, the 7 that we're pretty definitively sure are his. And then that bit from 2 Corinthians is one that some apologists are like, no. If you actually read here in Paul, right? Paul wrote in 2 Corinthians that women need to go to their husbands first, so that tracks with 2 Timothy. So it's that's going to be something that both sides will argue about probably forever.
Well, that's not relevant though. I mean, that would just mean that two different people have the same opinion about women.
It could be, and it also could just illustrate that. Okay, well, just because Paul could have contradictory opinions about women, when he wrote stuff. There's more to it than that, because the pastoral epistles, there's a lot more going on with the pastoral epistles that prove that that's not that Paul didn't write them. But I've heard Christian apologists try to say, like, oh, well, there's this one thing that they bring up, that Paul's attitude about women was that he was actually for prophets if you read the Pauline epistles, but then when you read the pastoral epistles, all of a sudden women should be silent in the church, and the only real position he set up for them was like widows or something like that. It's like, yeah, okay, they try to explain that away by pointing to that passage in 2 Corinthians. It's like, that's the least of your problems. Like that's a nice way to kind of salvage that part, but you got more.
Well, it's not salvaging it though, because any apologist who tries to say that the verses in Corinthians or Timothy are not actually the product of Paul is throwing out the New Testament. Because I got to remind you, Revelation says nobody can add or subtract, right? If they're trying to subtract and say it's not valid, it's not valid scripture, they're removing from the Bible.
Oh no!
So you can't. The apologetic is just cannot accept that.
No, the Christians. The Christian apologists are trying to harmonize it and say that Paul is being consistent in 2 Corinthians and in 2 Timothy.
Right.
But the problem is for New Testament scholars that actually read it in the original Greek, they're like, no, they're not consistently written by the same person. Like, they're just not.
They're certainly not.
Yeah. The apologists are ignoring the big problems, but they're going for that little problem right there and trying to tell. Because it was even something I remember hearing about. One of the few things that was addressed when I was a teenager still going to church. It'd be one of those things that would come up, and somebody would be like, well, Paul says that in 2 Corinthians. Yeah, that's kind of the first time I ever heard that there were any troubles in paradise with the Pauline epistles.
Yeah, and just really, really quickly as I see it, Randolph, your DNA is twisted the wrong way, right?
Only you would notice that and care.
I guess I'm going to have to go see somebody about that.
Yeah,
you better go talk to Peter.
Inbreeding.
You're going to go talk to Peter now, aren't you?
Oh no, I was thinking I better go see a doctor if my DNA is twisted. Then I realized you're talking about my avatar.
What happens when cousins marry?
Oh boy.
So Scott, what is this Danny powder keg thing that you posted earlier?
I didn't post it. I don't know who did.
I gave that to you, Speed. That's what I was talking about earlier. I'll talk to you.
Oh, that's right. Okay, we were going to talk about it backstage. Right.
Yeah.
Okay, you didn't hear it. Okay, I just want to give a message to the jury. Ignore everything I just said.
Yeah.
Okay.
Disregard.
Yeah, just disregard that testimony.
Now, my curiosity speaks. I just gotta shove that down.
Well, yeah, we gotta shoot it in the head before we talk about it. So,
gotcha.
Yeah. Okay, maybe I shouldn't link it in the description then.
Oh, I need to.
Yeah, don't do that. Don't do that.
Okay, I'm sorry. Where the fuck is it now? Where did I put it?
There it is. Trying to find the unmute. By the way, speaking of which, the article that Daniel Bennet just linked to me also has a big old picture of DNA twisted the wrong way.
Which article?
He just sent it out to me. Which is not a scientific article. And unless I'm very much mistaken, it basically says that junk DNA and non-coding DNA are synonymous, which is wrong.
Was that
it was MicroRNA, the junk DNA controlling our genes.
Okay, well,
this is an article. It's just wrong. And if you want to continue shooting out links and references to things you don't understand, that's your business, but you're still wrong because you don't understand the subject that you're trying to talk about.
Hey, is this better, everyone?
Yeah. Yeah, you're good. So how long?
Right hand rule, man. If thumb pointing in the direction of travel, your fingers need to wrap on your right hand, wrap the way the DNA does.
So this would be from like the universe that evil Spock was from, I guess, and then this would be reality.
Right. Although Spock was a Vulcan, I have no idea which way their DNA goes.
Oh, a whole new ball of wax. A whole new.
The pause between Randolph's response when he heard, like, yeah, your DNA's twisted. I thought I just had a headache, but what are you telling me? I need to see a doctor?
Christopher, can you give me a link to that MicroRNA article that you just mentioned? Because
you can't make Google work?
I don't. Christopher, don't fuck with me. What would I Google, Mr. Christopher?
The thing he said.
What did he say? I can't find the quote. I can't find his quote. He hasn't talked. Okay, where the hell is he? So you are wrong. MicroRNAs are a product.
The one before that. One more.
Okay. Oh, Charlie Evans. Okay. Thank you. I can Google that. If you're too damn lazy to put up a link.
I already put it in the inside chat.
Oh, thank you. I am so pleased. My OCD thanks you. Okay, let me take a look. Oh my God, what is this? Okay. How it works daily? Okay. We'll put it in the description just for the hell of it.
You should probably include a warning label that this entire thing is bullshit.
Okay, I'll put warning label in all caps.
Hey, what do you guys think about doing debunks of anti-vaxxers once in a while?
That would be fun because Jesus Christ, I'm getting tired of them. I have friends that I'm almost willing to no longer be friends with at all, that I've been friends with for years and years. And the more I see the numbers shooting up and looking at what's going on in Florida, I just want to fucking strangle them.
Well, here in Canada, our health authorities and the government are saying now with the Delta variant, because our vaccination rates are quite high here, there still are anti-vaxxers here too, though. And now what's happened is they're saying the pandemic is only among those who don't have vaccine, who aren't vaccinated. So it's kind of a selective thing. And there are some people, according to some nurses I've spoken with, who are it's asymptomatic. They are getting some symptoms, but they're having 100% success rate with their recovery because they're already vaccinated for a long enough period of time.
Yeah, but there was something I saw on a channel recently, a guy that covered it, that Ninja Nerd, and there was some indication that people over 50 and people with problems like I have, that there might well be a punch through, and the punch through might kill me. Basically.
Yeah, so if you don't get treatment early enough, then definitely your risk is increased, right?
Yeah.
So I'm thinking, like, when you debunk the anti-vaxxers claims, it'd be kind of cool if you also got into the genetics of the virus. Like that'd be pretty neat, and I think you could do quite a few shows on that.
Did you guys hear anything about the super immunity thing that some researchers are exploring?
No.
Oh, what's that?
Oh, you mean with when you've had COVID and you get the vaccine?
Yeah, they started with groups where they knew that they had a confirmed, they had COVID, they were infected with a strain, then they got a vaccine. They're finding that, like, afterward, if they're exposed to pretty much even if they're exposed to non-communicable.
Quick pause.
What's that?
Quick pause. Daniel Bennet, once again, if your article conflates junk DNA and non-coding DNA, the author of your article is an idiot who doesn't know what they're talking about. Please stop posting nonsense by people who do not know what they're talking about. Non-coding DNA is not synonymous with junk DNA. Stop making that mistake.
And Daniel Bennet, I can give you a wrench if you'll post the goddamn links instead of these cryptic things that I have to look up with Google. I don't like Google. So I'm going to give this guy a wrench. Everybody else has one. So anyway.
Oh, really? You have to do that?
Well, if he, I mean, he's been posting, he's got all these things. He can post a damn link instead of, what the fuck does this mean? Diabetes, September 24, 2012 by Meg Baker, 58. How in the fuck am I going to Google that? What the hell? You guys have no idea what I go through on my description.
Doesn't YouTube have an option that you can let anybody post links and you don't have to give them the wrench?
I wish.
No, they don't. You have to have a wrench.
Oh, that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, here we go. Let's see. DNA controls diabetes. Is that the one? Oh, okay. Got it. Figured it out. I Googled it. I didn't want to have to Google shit.
MicroRNA. That's not a typo, is it?
What is this shit?
No.
MicroRNA is microRNA.
Okay, this is like a blog. What the fuck is he posting? He posted a blog or something. I don't know. Anyway, we'll put it in.
It once again is confusing non-coding DNA and junk DNA. That is wrong. Junk DNA does not mean all non-coding DNA. It means the junk portion of non-coding DNA, and the junk portion of non-coding DNA is those sequences that are derived from junk sources like transposable elements and ERVs and similar things.
Apparently you just don't understand CRISPR.
Yeah, you just don't understand CRISPR.
Now he's posting a bunch of news articles and things. Maybe I shouldn't have
Has he posted any legitimate journal articles all evening?
Yeah, 2 of them, I think.
2? Okay.
Yeah. So.
No, it does not refer to all non-coding DNA. You are simply wrong.
Come on in here, Daniel, and talk. Damn it.
I'll make room if I need to.
Oh,
no, we got plenty of room.
Plenty of room. He just won't come in.
It'd be interesting to hear what Daniel has to say.
Yeah.
But I kind of want to shoot it in the head here pretty quick.
Better hurry up, Daniel.
You coming in, Daniel? Tell us now, or forever hold your peace.
Yeah.
Yeah. Again, he just posted a comment like some non-coding DNA includes transfer RNAs and ribosomal RNAs, and they knew that when they coined the term junk DNA to talk about DNA from junk sources. Do you think they meant transfer RNAs when they started talking about this? Do you think these people are idiots?
He does.
I just shared the StreamYard link with Daniel in the live chat.
Well, he's had it. I posted it in public chat several times. Oh, you did too. Okay. Let's see. Andrew Cumming. Where the hell is the last link he gave me? Where's this guy? Okay, Randolph. Nope. What am I not seeing? Okay, guys. He isn't going to come in, is he? Anyway. He can come in tomorrow.
So Jefferson, are you and Jay or Jay going to do any more tonight?
I might do one tonight. I got to sort through a few things because Time Rabbit dumped a few more videos, even more videos, and there was one that kind of piqued my curiosity. But I had a couple of requests for some older ones. So
cool.
Is he still covering just Garth Dawkins?
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Why? Daniel Bennet, once again, stop posting links confusing junk DNA and non-coding DNA. I don't care how many people you can find to make the same mistake. It is still wrong.
It's not in his nature. He's going to keep posting them.
This one is Bio Ninja.
Yeah. Sorry.
Is that a peer-reviewed journal from highly respected institutions?
It's from Bio Ninja.
Guess what?
Ninja.
Daniel, if I said that 1 + 1 = 2, I bet you could find 1,000 sources that said 1 + 1 = 3. They'd all still be wrong.
Yeah.
You keep posting links to nonsense websites that are not peer-reviewed, that are not representative of any level of consensus science, that are not what is actually taught or what is actually meant by people active in the field, you are wrong.
Many
I'm sorry
sources.
to tell this to you, but you're wrong.
Many sources refute your claims. Yeah, I mean, like if I had 20 minutes, I could put up 5 more sources that refute CRISPR. I should do that every day. What do you think, CRISPR? I mean, I know how to create a web page. I know how to write a response to a blog article. Anyway, let's shoot it in the head, guys, before we get angry. Okay.
Sounds good.
A lot of fun.
Sure.
Okay. Yeah. Well, thank you, CRISPR, and all of you, Jefferson, David, Scott, Andrew, everybody who came in. This is a pretty good. We covered a lot of shit. We did it really well. And CRISPR, excellent stuff. Thank you.
And we managed to get 4 thumbs down too. That's awesome.
4 thumbs down. That means we really pissed him off.
That means
This
you're
is
being
great.
controversial. And
Yeah. Well, we had 3 right when it started, I think. So I think
Maybe Craig was
just
watching.
just pop in and throw a thumbs down and leave or something. Probably.
I can leave it. I can leave a dislike if you guys really want. I mean, it won't be an honest.
Oh yeah,
dislike,
we
but-
did it. Thank you, Jefferson. Please.
And
Please.
probably Doki was one of them because you pissed him or her off, whichever one that is. I don't know.
Yeah, I pissed Doki
That's
off.
probably one.
Because I only read 2 chapters of the Bible, and I'm not competent to talk about molecular biology because I haven't read the entire Bible. I mean, what the fuck?
Carl Sagan was much more than a biologist, as I recall.
Oh God.
Someone in
Anyway,
the chat saying he's a famous biologist.
Oh, okay, Bond just confirmed Doki's a male. I guess I don't know why I thought
it doesn't matter.
I know. I keep saying this. I don't know. I just always thought it was a female. I don't know.
We're all bags of water. Yep.
I have yet to find any nice male Christians on YouTube at all.
Okay, guys. Goodbye, cool world. We're out of here. What do you think?
Yep.
Bye.